Welcome back to Hilaal Live. I'm your host, Luqman Shadrack. Thanks for joining us on our channel 347 on DSTV. It's our Elections 2024 update. And we're chatting to the political party Anazia Peaceful Revolution, joining us via Zoom, Brother Riyaad Maarman. Brother Riyaad, Jazakallah so much for taking the time and having a discussion with us and having a catch up as well. Before the break, you mentioned something about coalitions as well. And more importantly of note, you've made a statement about the ANC-DA coalition that could be coming up. Is that still a thing, or was that just speculation?
No, that's definitely, thank you very much. It is always a pleasure to speak to you.
My pleasure.
Definitely that is a thing. We must understand that the DA has publicly made statements that they would be considering an ANC coalition. Mm-hmm. And the ANC has made the same statements that they would be considering a DA coalition. And so that is quite disappointing, I think, for many of the people who thought that the DA and the ANC are on the opposite sides of the spectrum, and that thought that they stood for very different principles and policies. And these statements from them shows that that is not the case. Mm. And for any of those people that think that this is, something that the ANC would not do, I think they have forgotten history. They need to look a little bit back at history and realize that the ANC was actually in a government of national unity with the apartheid government, their former enemies. They were in government together. That was part of the compromise that the ANC made. So the ANC is not beyond such deals. And I think that is quite on the cards, I think, therefore, especially we're speaking here to a Muslim audience, I would caution the Muslims not to support the ANC and not to vote for the ANC, because you would then vote for people that do not have your same interest at heart, because I am sure most Muslims would not want to vote for the DA and believe that the DA's stance as far as the genocide that is happening in Palestine is concerned is unacceptable, the stance of the DA. But the ANC is willing to be in coalition with them. So this is something to consider, and I think it's not just statements that are made, and I don't think it's false statements. I think there is a lot of truth to that.
It's very difficult as a Muslim living in South Africa to probably listen to that and hear that and digest that, because it's the ANC government that has led the ICJ court hearings, and also has been very vocal about our brothers and sisters in Palestine, advocating for a ceasefire, advocating for Israel to stop the genocide, and posing a lot of bans and siding with other countries as well. But so a bit contrary to your statement, though.
Yes, because I do not think I seriously question the reason why the ANC has done that. Of course, I think it's a good thing. I think that someone had to do something to stop the genocide in Palestine from continuing. I wonder, though, was that purely such altruistic motivations from the ANC? Because the same ANC refuses to stop the dual citizenship of many of the Israelis and who carry the South Africans, Jewish South Africans who carry passports of South Africa and Israel at the same time. They stopped, business people, billionaires who are profiting in South Africa, Jewish billionaires, and sending the profits to Israel, supporting the genocide there. The ANC does nothing. For years, they've done nothing about IDF soldiers, also Jewish South Africans, that are being recruited by the Israeli Defense Force, and then that are literally going and shooting Palestinians there. The ANC has done nothing about this. Parliament has asked the ANC to close down the embassy, and the ANC has refused. And then now they have taken this case. So these are things that we have to consider carefully. What is going on here? What are the motivations?
Right.
And secondly, since they've, if I just maybe finish this point, but I promise I'll be quick.
Sure.
But the ANC has, as South Africa faces now the risk of sanctions. So South Africa will be sanctioned. The United States is discussing sanctions. As you know, Israel has a lot of influence in the US Congress, and to punish South Africa for taking the case, they are considering issuing sanctions against South Africa. The sanctions will be biting and crippling, and it will affect the poor of South Africa very badly. There's also a move inside the country to say that Muslims have a negative impact on the ANC. They've captured the ANC. They control the government. So there is now attempts to persecute the Muslims or to scapegoat them in preparation for persecution. So I think, and all of this has come about because of how the ANC has managed the country for the last 30 years.
Right.
So I would be very, very skeptical. If as a Muslim, I'm skeptical of the ANC, and I would rather, vote for a Muslim party and ensure that that Muslim party is protecting the rights and freedoms of Muslims. Especially, I see them that they are being under threat at the moment.
Right.
And I think that Al Jama'ah is the Muslim party to vote for.
Right. You've recently endorsed Al Jama'ah as a party that you feel has credibility in South Africa. Have you made pacts with any other parties as well, or endorse any other parties?
Yes, look, as I said, obviously we are here on a Muslim channel, so I maybe want to just have a little bit of an opportunity, if you don't mind, just to explain exactly my thinking about why to endorse Al Jama'ah. So first, I want the Muslims to understand that this was not just me picking a party or a leader that amongst the various Muslim leaders. No, I engage with all of the Muslim leaders of parties that the Muslim community will be familiar with. And I engage each of their leaders on the basis that, letting Muslims vote for or choose between all of you is going to split the Muslim vote. So that's the first thing I said. Secondly, there is a trend in the country to turn the people against the Muslims. And this trend will only continue after the elections goes ahead. We must remember the crackdown of the DA before the election against pro-Palestine Muslim protesters. So therefore, I said to the Muslim leaders of all of the different parties that I'm aware of, please unite, create one Muslim voting bloc, and use that voting bloc to protect the religious freedom of the Muslims and the religious freedom of all people of faith in the country. And the others, unfortunately, did not accept my offer.
Okay.
And only Al Jama'ah accepted the offer, and that is why I publicly came out and supported them.
All right. Have you also made a pact with the PAC?
Yes, indeed. I have made an agreement with the PAC to support them as well. Because, look, there are two problems that I identify in the country. As a Muslim, I can see the immediate threat to the religious freedom of Muslims in the country. And I think the best way one of the ways as a defense is for Muslims to have a voting bloc where they vote together. The other issue is that the country is in trouble. The center is falling apart. Soon there won't be a majority in the country. The ANC will lose its majority. We have to find another way to mobilize the people, and we have to find a cause and a ideological basis to mobilize the people. And I think the best way that is to advance the cause of a peaceful revolution. The PAC has for years advanced the cause of revolution. And in fact, we are here where we are today as in South Africa because the PAC and the ANC differed on a position. The ANC believed that we should have political compromise with the oppressors, and we've lived that for the last 30 years. And the PAC was always of the view that we should have revolution, and I'm speaking to them and say we should have revolution, but peacefully, preferably.
Gotcha. Couple of minutes left
now
before.
As a country, we are on the verge of that. Yeah.
Gotcha, Brother Riyaad. Sorry to interject there. 2 minutes left. The book, The Subversion of South Africa. Tell us a little bit about that before we close off the interview.
Yes. So The Subversion of South Africa is a book that I have written recently. I think it's a book that everybody should have in the country. It explains the political undercurrents that are really driving politics in the country. It discusses the issue of political puppetry and who are the puppet masters that control our politics. It explains also the designs of these people, what are their intentions. And it goes back to the early history of South Africa to uncover what I call the subversion of South Africa, which is, if you want to put it bluntly or in another way, it's basically the capture of South Africa. How was South Africa really captured, and who has really captured this country? And more importantly, how do we uncapture ourselves, as it were?
Interesting. Must be a good read. Jazakallah once again for taking the time to talk to us. Like I said, I know you're very busy right now. Couple of days left. In closing, any last statement to our audience?
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. In closing, I would like to say, this is a critical moment in the history of our country. I think our people need to be brave in their decisions. They must understand if we keep on making, the same electoral decisions that we are making, we are going to end up in the same place. And secondly, if we want our country to change drastically, then we should make such a decision in our elections now drastically. And I think, the options that I've put in front of the people here is important. For the Muslim community, a drastic position would be to distance yourself from the ANC and to vote for one of your own. And here I am suggesting to you to vote Al-Jama'ah. That would be a drastic decision to ensure religious freedom. And for the rest of the country and for all of the people, I would suggest you vote for a peaceful revolution in this country, because it looks like we might have a violent one if we can't engineer a peaceful one. And for that, the Anazia is working closely with the PAC, and the PAC would be good for voting for a drastic, peaceful revolution in this country. Right. Thank you for the opportunity. Greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Bold statements from Anazia, Peaceful Revolution. Brother Riyaad Maarman, Jazakallah for your time. Have a great evening. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan.
And there we go, Elections 2024 update. We chat to various parties leading up to the elections. That's all that we have for you for this week. Thanks for joining us. From the Cape Town team, Sohail Barnes and myself, Luqman Shadrack. Have a great evening. Assalamu alaikum.